This is Lysha Holmes, and I'm your host for the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And I know when you're in for a treat, listener. I know based on the conversation I have before I hit record. And my next guest is somebody that I have secretly been stalking for quite some time. And it turns out she's been stalking me, which is very cool. We have a lot of shared interests. It sounds like we've got a very similar mindset. And her story is really compelling, very inspiring, and I think well within reach for a lot of our community. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome to you all today, Helen Plumridge, who is the founder of Hypa Consulting. Welcome to you today, Helen. How are you?
Well, after that intro, Lysha, I feel honoured and excited to be on your podcast because I've been stalking you and I almost think you're famous. So,
Oh, you said that before we start. Well, I mean, that's the power of personal brand on LinkedIn. That is it. Pure and simple, which is why I'm always banging on about it in episodes like this, because the reality is that's what I want people to recognize me for the right reasons. And I want people to get to know you too. And so we have been connected, I think it was through, correct me if I'm wrong, was it Alison Humphreys that connected us?
yes, it was.
Shout out to Alison. She's a real connector, which is fantastic. I'll make sure I'm tagging her on that basis. So there will be so many people that don't yet know you, but they soon will. I love watching your videos on LinkedIn in particular, and I think the things that you talk about will really resonate with our audience. I think our audience are founders, recruiters starting their journey, and people that want to elevate their learning experience, which is why they're listening and press play. So explain who you are and give an introduction to your journey to Hypa Consulting.
Wow. Yes, the power of personal brand. And you do it really well as well, Lysha, I must say. Yeah, so Helen Plumridge, live in Devon, 2 kids and a husband, training for a half Ironman at the moment. So not much space in between work, training, kids, hubby, live by the beach. So it's great. Life is good. Been a recruiter for 23 years this year. I'm a lifer, still love it, still do recruitment as well. I still have some senior hires, work with some clients. I started in the sort of corporate, went into independence, and then a bit like a lot of people thought, I can do this, maybe I could do this for myself and earn my own money. Went off for maternity, and then long story short, decided to set up my last business about 10 years ago now, can't believe it. And that was in my kids' toy room. So a bit like a lot of the solo founders I work with, female founders. Yeah, you're just kind of carving it together, trying to be flexible, 1 minute in a client meeting, 1 minute picking up the kids, etc.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I always had that dream to grow my business, and I grew it organically to start off with. I had a really amazing client that I onboarded really early on in my journey, which actually paved the way to my growth. And it's always a case study I talk about, but we hired something like 220 people for that one client over 6 or 7 years. Still got a great relationship with them today. And that allowed me to start adding people to my team, allowed me to build out sort of exec search space for my business. And then when COVID hit, I had that I sat there, as a lot of people I'm sure did, and just thought, do I still want to grow this business? Because you couldn't really see, could you, which way it was going to go? Is it just going to die?
No
Am I
one
going
knew.
to close my business in a minute, or is there growth available? So decided to grow and sort out investment. I partnered with Recruitment Entrepreneur, so I got backing from them. That's headed up by Chairman James Khan, as a lot of people know, and went on a journey of 2 or 3 years with them where I grew my business and had some 6K months, all female team, all singing, all dancing, and then I had the opportunity to exit in 2023. And mixture of reasons, always get asked why. And I actually felt that kind of the scale and the exit journey was it's really, I mean, it is hardcore. It's, not many people do it because
No.
there's a lot of intensity to it. And I actually got to a point where it almost felt I felt a bit corporate in my own business. And didn't really feel like it was my baby anymore. And I think I realised as an entrepreneur that I'm better off as master of my own destiny. And I don't regret it at all, and learned a lot, but decided, and it was difficult to exit my business and start Hypa Consulting. I just felt that I've got so much to give female founders, and that's what Hypa Consulting is all about. It's about working with female founders. So it's coaching, community, and courses, and I want to build the biggest community in the globe for female founders in recruitment. I want to back little old me in a toy room. I want to back female founders and help to succeed in our industry. That's effectively all about.
I mean, it's just, your story is electric. I am such an empath that when you talked then about, you felt that it wasn't you being true to you and you were this corporate, which you are, but you do effectively become almost like, I don't want to say corporate slave, because I've got huge respect for Recruitment Entrepreneur and James Caan and all the subsidiaries of that. But I think you have to be true to yourself, and you get to a certain career in your life where you know that that was the right thing to do, and respect to you, because I think the start of actual exited founders is something ridiculous, like less than 1% that actually sell and exit, and what percentage of that is female? So you are a very unique person that you've managed to do that, and it's really inspiring. So I think that I can see why people are going to magnetize towards you and want to, you know, be part of that community with you, and to I guess to go on that learning experience. So if you were to go back to that Helen that you described, reversing back a little bit, because I think this will resonate with a lot of people. And actually, this isn't just singularly for females, by the way. This is for anybody that's at this stage in their career where you knew that you needed to go and set up on your own. What was the eureka moment that actually made you do it?
Oh, such a good question. I think there's something always within me from childhood, if I'm honest, that I wanted to be really successful in business in my career. Did you used to watch LA Law?
Of course. Are we similar? I wanted to be a lawyer because of LA Law. And if you listen to this and you're like, what are they go banging on about? Go onto YouTube, and I tell you, if you lived at that time, 88 to 1990 maybe, they were like, I dread to think what Harry Hamlin looks like now, or any, but they were like sex gods in suits with big shoulder pads, which are obviously back in fashion now, which is crazy. And they were successful business people, weren't they? I love that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I used to watch it all the time. And the same, I wanted to be a lawyer, just wasn't academic enough, really. But I loved the lady with the blonde bob.
I know, I can't think of a name. I can't think of her hair. That's who I'm thinking of.
That's who I wanted to be. I was just like, oh, she's amazing. So I think there was always something within me. And then I, having got into recruitment and all of those sorts of things, and I think a couple of moments, really, 2 moments that stand out, which I think tipped me over the edge to setting my own business up, which, not for everyone. One of them is I worked for 2 really inspirational women that had an independent agency, and I just learned so much from them. And I think there was something in me that just thought, if they can do it, I can do it too. I want that. There's so much freedom in that independent agency versus working in corporate. So I loved it. And then the other moment really was after maternity. I didn't know which way I was going to go. And it was actually my husband and my late father-in-law who just said, I think recruitment's your thing. I think you could start your own business. Why don't you? And
what do you actually need? A phone, laptop?
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't have any financial support. I think I'd done a little bit of work on the side for a friend who worked for a business. I did a couple of hires, and they were really easy. And my husband just went, "Oh, that was easy money." You've got some money in the bank now. You could just start your own agency, and that was it. That was the touch paper type scenario. So I do think it's moments, but I also think there's some sort of trigger or support that you need if you're thinking about it. I think someone's just backing you to go, do you know what? You could do that.
I think there's 2 points that, and thank you for sharing that. And I think that, I mean, it echoes a lot of my story, actually. I think that it's really important to talk about who shouldn't be doing it, because there's so many startup companies, there are so many backers, venture capitalists, investors, rec tech companies that want to just, get you started. And I don't think it's a journey for everybody. And I think actually your first point, as much as we joked, and it was very nice to be nostalgic about LA Law, I think genuinely people know it's in them. They just can't get it out their heads. And obviously I recruit recruiters, right? So most of what I do is at senior leadership. And if I'm having a conversation with a real stalwart who knows their market inside out, I will often say, have you thought about setting up on your own? And if they go, I go, don't then. Because if you've gone, that means you're not really thinking about it. It needs to eat away at you. There'll be things that will be happening in your job where you're thinking, I've either got a better way of doing this, not because you're arrogant, but because it's a better way of doing it. Or
So true.
for me, it was actually ethics being compromised constantly, and I would never compromise my ethics. And then, yes, there's usually a catalyst. I mean, and very often, if we go back to specifically for women, the catalyst could be going off and having a child. But actually, it's not unique. It could be that, COVID, we saw a massive boom in people setting up on their own because they've got made redundant after furlough. So they had a little bit of cash. They probably thought, oh shit, I'm at home. I can't get a job. The market's in turmoil. So actually, that it doesn't necessarily have to be the same catalyst that you and I experienced, which was similar. But I do think fundamentally, to be successful, whatever your scale looks like, whether it's headcount or pure profit, it needs to be within you. I think you need to just know that you've got this deep desire to carve out your own path. And that's what an entrepreneur does.
Couldn't agree more. And I also think, to add to that, I think it's also seeing, especially for women, it's seeing other women doing it. And then that gives us confidence that, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too.
I
And
think,
actually,
sorry to interrupt, but I just want
yeah,
before I forget, I don't want to forget, I'm at that age where I will forget. The two female founders that you worked for could not have been more pivotal in your confidence in yourself that you could do this. And I think that's where this pathway that you create, and that really comes across in your branding and all the work that you do, is that I think we have now a responsibility as founders to ensure that anybody can think, who's got it in them, I can do what she's done.
yeah. And that's what we're here. That's what we're here to do. It absolutely is. I've got two of my ex-team have gone off and set up their own business, and I'm super proud of them. I probably don't say it enough, particularly to one of them, but the other one's just set up her own business. And to your point about that kind of ex-COVID scenario where, for her as an example, and there's lots of people like it, if you're working at home and you're working remotely for a business, there can be that lack of connection. So you kind of think, well, what would be different if I was just running my own business now? There's not a lot. Well, there is a difference because there's more responsibility, but essentially day to day on the tools, recruiting in a solo setup, what is the difference really, except that you're master of your own destiny?
I think the caveat I would add as a rec to rec with my day job hat on, sorry, is you would be surprised how much you actually need to go out and win business and curate a brilliant portfolio and ensure that you're consistently doing all the process and activity and that you can't rely on anything or anybody else. So I think there's always that caveat when I've seen people who maybe have struggled. So I actually, at the moment, certainly for the last 12 months, have had the opposite attraction to me as a rec to rec, which is people who've gone and done it by themselves. They've reached a point as a solopreneur where they've gone, I actually don't want to scale through headcount. I've reached a point where I think I'm maxing out what I can make profit wise, and I feel really lonely, and I want to get back to work, and that's great. I'm placing them, and it's all fantastic. But some people have done that and haven't been very successful because actually maybe they're not very good at winning business. So I think we have a responsibility, don't we, to have a caveat. So I really want to focus in on this pathway that you want to create through the work that you do and advocating for, females to basically, I guess, see that they can go and achieve whatever North Star that looks like. But let's just set the scene where we are right now in 2025. What are the greatest barriers to any female listening that or anyone listening that wants to help create a pathway for females? Like, what are the actual barriers?
To people starting in business, or
To start up on their own. What do you think the greatest barriers are that people come to you and say, really want to do it, but I can't do it because of this, and this. These are the things that are stopping me.
yeah, even in today, even in 2025, we are talking about lifestyle factors, and we are still talking about women having that majority share of kids, lifestyle, family. Could, even if you're a dog mum, we're not just about with dogs. It might be that you're looking after older parents, that type of thing, that responsibility, that kind of care orientation. So, and it is also that kind of belief and expectation of where we are in our careers and what we want to achieve. A bit alluding to what you just said before, is that, does someone have the belief to do it, but is it really ingrained in them to go out and take the ball by the horns and set up and grow this business? So lifestyle factors, mindset factors, obviously finances. I think, we all know what's going on in the economy out there. We know it's a really tough market at the moment. So I think if you're in a recruitment company and you're finding it tough, then the likelihood of taking the leap it's still going to be tough.
Is there funding out there specifically designed to support women, though, just while we're on this point?
Well, it's still only 1%. Only 1% of female founders get backed from an investment point of view, and that is female founders globally in any type of business.
I just can't get my head around that stat. It's just
crazy.
What we're doing anyway. That's not on us. That's on everyone else.
I think personally, I think there's an opportunity for people like us to think about what that could look like going forward. And then, and again, the reasons for that are, the system, it is, in the investment world, unfortunately, is quite stereotypical. I'm not going to, diss any guys in the industry at all. But it's also, I've been reading a book actually, and I've forgotten the name of the book. I will share it with you. Okay. But it's a lady that set up a really cool camping company in the US. Right. She's from the UK. It's called Under Canvas. Okay. She didn't believe that she could do it. Anyway, her and her husband went and did it, and they sold it for 100 million. Just because she pushed herself. She got into the right framework. She had lots of other female entrepreneurs around her, and now she invests in female founders herself. She said, out in the whole history of investment ever, this is in America, there's only 30 female founders. This is 30. She can count that on, 3 sets of hands, that went and floated, basically.
Oh my God. Bumble was one, I think.
And the percentage that do over 1 million is sort of 1% as well. So
it's just, it staggers belief. And that's why I love following people like Emma Grede, Grace Beverly.
Yes.
These are the people that, they founded and launched and talk around these topics. So if you are a podcast fan and you want some inspo on other, topics other than just recruitment, obviously we don't just talk about recruitment, but go and follow Emma Greed's hers is called Aspire with Emma, and then Grace Beverly's is Working Hard, Hardly Working, and it's brilliant. They talk about this topic all the time. And obviously you've got people like Deborah Meaden, she's got her brand, hasn't she, the investment brand. So I love that we've talked about that. So I mean, all those barriers that you've talked about, I think that for me the most important one is around mindset, and it starts with that, because actually without having the right mindset, it doesn't really matter what other barriers there are, because you're never going to get beyond it, are you? So when you're working with with your coachees and with people that have gone and launched, is there a step that they need to get to switch that mindset? Can you change a mindset? So if I'm sat here now thinking, I really need to do this, I really need to, for my life, whether it is because of family commitments, and doesn't just mean children, it can mean parents very often, or siblings, or pets, whatever. I need to go and do this for myself, but I can't because of X, Y, and Z. What would your advice be for someone who knows they need to change their mindset, but how do they do it?
There is a quote by Jim Rohn. Do you know Jim Rohn?
Yeah.
Who, for anyone who doesn't know, was Tony Robbins' guru.
Yeah.
Passed away now, but he said if you work in your business, you'll earn a living. If you work on yourself, you earn a fortune. And it is like a muscle. Your mindset is like a muscle.
It really is.
And effectively, you've got to keep putting stuff in the funnel, and you've got to be doing that regularly. You can't just go on some course and hope for the best, or just have a really good week and then have a down week. It's something you've got to work on daily, weekly, monthly. And I see, what I do see a lot is, I see a lot of, a bit like you alluded to, Lysha, is a lot of really successful recruiters that have gone out on their own. And being solo, by the very nature, is extremely lonely. And the biggest barrier to them growing and achieving and keeping consistent in this market and knowing what to post and knowing what to do is that kind of loneliness mindset scenario. So I don't think it means going and recruiting staff necessarily, because that may not be what you want to do, but I think it's certainly finding some strategies to get some support, whether you're in a female founders recruitment group, like I've got a Facebook group, for example, peer group, or you've got some really cool sort of supporters in your network, and we've all got people that champion us.
Absolutely.
I do regular walks with a couple of people every month that I get on really well with. I can put warts and all sorts of scenarios. I've got someone who's got a coaching business in sort of more the HR vein, and we meet weekly, and we put stuff to bed. We kind of tackle
that collaboration with a peer is insurmountably more useful than just sitting there going, oh my God, I'm reading all these books, I'm listening to all these podcasts, but you've got to make it come alive.
Yes.
Not being afraid to share. I think it's really valuable advice, and I think that quote really resonates with me. And I think it's about making sure the people that you surround yourself with, and don't underestimate what work you might need to do in your personal circles as well as your professional ones, that should be your cheerleaders, that say your name in a room of opportunity when you're not there, that will give you that support and be candid with you, and allow you to, like you just said there, you've got this peer who's doing effectively a similar role to you but in a different environment. You're going to have similar challenges, similar questions, similar sort of issues potentially, but you look at how much stronger you feel when you just go for I love walking meetings, by the way. I think walking meetings should have always been a thing, and I think it's just really valid. And I think, again, I always say this podcast, if it just reaches one person that is feeling that this will be a very common feeling for someone who maybe is working from home, or maybe goes into a shared space. Where I work is a shared space, and there's loads of solopreneurs, not recruiters, I hasten to add. Got marketeers, we've got salespeople, got tech specialists, and just having a moment over a coffee. How's things going with you? Just sharing that, it just makes you feel less insular and just much more outwardly focused, I think. Don't be afraid.
100%. And also, as we very much advocate exercise, it's so crucial. It can make or break your day if you just get up and do some exercise first thing, or at least have a walk outside during a day, and that again can completely re-energize you, and you just got that extra perspective, I think, when you step away from the laptop, because otherwise, as we all know in recruitment, you tend to be, it's laptop and phone, plugged in all day.
You can be on it all day. It's a sort of job where you can be 24/7. We were talking off camera, and I hope you don't mind me saying this to you, because we were chatting, because you're like super fit, and we were talking about the fact that for you and me, it's a non-negotiable. And I think it's really funny that the people that don't do it, and we know there's all people in our lives that it might be a family member, it usually is, that go, oh my God, you must be so busy. Why do you bother doing that? And to me, I'm like, that's the one thing that's not going to be negotiated on. That fitness is not necessarily just because I like the fact that I feel fit and I look I think I look better than I did 10 years ago. It's for this, it's my brain. My mental health is vital so I can then go on and do all the other things. I think it's a pillar that will never, ever be removed from my life.
No, I feel like my arm's cut off if I'm not exercising. So,
Right.
and it's just, and for anyone who says, I don't know where you find the time, how you do it. I had someone the other day who asked me that, and I just said, look, you schedule everything into your diary. Yeah, this is a friend who she has got everything on Asana.
Yeah.
You know, it's all project management. It's all scheduled. I'm like, where? Just schedule your exercising, just like you do with your work. It is
Right.
literally as simple as that.
Literally, I mean, I think that about everything. I think that about any goal that you have, whether it's to be able to go for dinner with your spouse once a week, whether it's a family day out once a month, whether it's, home improvements. If you are listening to this, the chances are you're probably a pretty organized person and you want to improve your life. Absolutely stick it in your diary in the same way. I block out my Calendly for all my personal stuff as much as my business stuff, because that is me curating the best life for myself. It means I'm not frantic, despite the fact that I do get up stupidly early and I have a jam-packed day running a business, running a podcast, running a community, women in recruitment leadership. I'm super busy. And I always think that it's the super busy people that make the time to do
Yeah,
the business because they couldn't do all the other bits without it.
yeah, it's that counterbalance, isn't it? It's your and especially we talk about not drinking, it's your vice, not your vice.
Oh no, it's
Not your vice,
my,
it's your vent. It's where you vent. It's
my
where you let
pleasure.
everything.
Let me just make something clear though. I am the one in the gym that's going, no, I don't want to do any more burpees, and oh my God, I don't want another 10 kg on that. But when I'm done and the endorphins kick in, oh my God, there is no feeling like it. And it's worth it. And they say no pain, no gain. We're not advocating hurting yourself here, but I just think whatever your choice of fitness is, it could be anything. It could be walking, it could be swimming, it could be going in an ice bath, whatever it is, yoga, Pilates, I mean, all those things. And there is no right or wrong. I always say everything can be right. But if you are not making the time, I think at least 4 or 5 times a week, I think you lose sight of what is actually really important. And that's about your self-care. And that presumably is what underpins any session that you have with any of your coaches. It's self-care first.
Yeah. And most issues, most challenges, most problems do, once you unpick it, you realise it is something to do with confidence, mindset, the way someone's showing up, their sort of processes, systems,
Yeah.
what they've got in place effectively. And it all goes back to, how they're showing up every day. So,
I agree totally. I often say that the tone you would use to your best friend who is coming to you with the issues that you are facing, whether it's confidence, whether it's making time for yourself, you would find a kind, soft, uncompromised voice to your best friend where you would come up with solutions for him or her. Why do you not use that voice to yourself? Why do you not do that for yourself? And when you just reframe it like that, because I often use that with my coaches, they're just like, never thought of it like that. It's like, it's true. Why we need to use kinder voices to ourselves and be more succinct and objective about ourselves too. I'm going to leave you that thought. Have you got any final thoughts for our audience before we
I
leave?
was going to say, and also you can just tell that voice to shut up as well, which is what I do. I just say, just shut up. Something a bit harsher than that, probably. Just
Love it.
piss off.
Literally. Finish a pod? No, come on. Last bits of advice.
Last bits of advice. Yeah, I just think any I suppose we were talking about challenges here, how you can get better. So, but I think everything's solvable. It's just about taking that time out to, whatever challenge or problem you've got, take yourself out of it and just have a really good overview of, how you're showing up, what the challenges are and how you're going to solve them. Because often you've got the answers yourself. And if you need that sounding board, then people like us are great here for support. I do a free 45-minute strategy call as part of what I do. You can find it on my LinkedIn profile. So if you've got something that there's a barrier in your business right now and you just want to talk it out, then Yeah, absolutely free.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah,
your contact details will be shared all over this episode. I think that is absolutely invaluable. And I often think all, we're talking about being busy people, you're stuck in the reeds, but sometimes you just need to take a step back. And actually, it's counterproductive not to, and it's much more useful to do that. So thank you so much for joining us. That's flown, that episode, but there's a lot of takeaways there. And I'm really grateful for you sharing your insights today. And we can't wait to hear what the audience thinks. Thanks so much for joining me on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast.
thanks, Lysha.